This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio is brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species, and Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures.
It's gone almost unnoticed, but over the past 20 years, the Great Lakes of North America have undergone a change of unimaginable scale. Quadrillions of tiny invasive mussels have quietly expanded ever deeper into the depths. They're devouring the bottom of the food chain, sucking the life out of the world's largest freshwater environment. But their insatiable appetite has had an extraordinary side effect. It's made the water astonishingly clear.
Around the world, we're seeing fish populations in a spiral decline. And it's really easy just to point the finger and say, that's happening somewhere else, that's not happening here. But in reality, it's happening right under our nose.
This was a unique food web that had been established since the last glaciation.
We saw the lake changing before our eyes. We just see a carpet of mussels on the bottom of the lakes.
In a week's time, every gallon of water in Lake Michigan could have passed through a mussel.
It's my opinion that invasive quagga mussels have been the biggest change in the Great Lakes ecosystem, really going back since the glaciers.
Become part of a mission to bring life back to the depths that will challenge everything you thought you knew about the freshwater ecosystems we all depend on.
Clear water, from an aesthetic perspective, people kind of love that. But from an ecosystems perspective, it really means nothing's there, nothing's growing.
And learn how this tremendous problem just might be our one chance to restore the long-lost ecosystem of the Great Lakes.
It's not too late. We can change this, but we need to act now.
Well, hello out there. Thank you once again for joining us. Outdoor Journal Radio, the podcast. I'm Angelo Viola. He is Peter Bowman over there. And,
That's right. That's right. My Outdoor Journal T-shirt on.
Come on now. Put your name on it so you don't get lost.
So
we don't lose you. Dean Taylor.
Come on now.
Right there. Vova and Nick behind the scenes as per usual. Wonderful episode. I'm so excited. I'm trying to, if I sound a little understated right now, it's because I'm trying to.
You're holding back for the big climax of the show.
I'm trying not to sound like a giddy little.
And that's why right there, because you're going to get giddy with these people.
Oh, my God.
On.
Now you went and did it. I
was looking at you, and it was in the corner of my eye.
Coming up later today, I am so excited. These two were on the program about a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year now. Dean will correct me if I'm way off.
Less.
A little bit less. That's what I thought you'd say. That's why I went more, because I don't want it to sound like we're always agreeing, because then it would be like a well-rehearsed, well-oiled machine. Exactly. I don't want it come across as that.
It's a podcast, right? It's not a radio show, right? We can let loose a little bit here.
Suffice to say, they have been on the show before, and they unveiled to us this new form of underwater cinematography that they were embarking in, and their storylines and what they wanted to do and their intention. And we got so excited back then because the imagery that they were showing us was breathtaking.
Right.
We had no idea that a little less than a year ago, as Dean told us, we would be here telling you that we had the privilege of viewing some of their stuff yesterday.
Oh my God. Spectacular. As outdoors people, as anglers, as just probably the general public, you will like watching this. I guarantee you will love watching this. I guarantee it. Guarantee it.
Joining us in a few minutes will be Yvonne Drebert. who is owner/producer at Inspired Planet Productions, and her husband, Zach Melnick, owner/director, cinematographer at said Inspired Planet Productions.
He narrated.
And he married her.
No, he narrated.
And he narrated her. He married her. That's the part
He narrated her.
That's the part I'm excited about.
He marinated her. You're going to have stew her
Oh, my
tomorrow.
God. Like, I want to be him when I die. I'm telling you. I want to be the pair of them, actually. Anyways,
was that his voice, Trout?
That was his voice. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Wow.
But we'll have him here.
Because they didn't appear a whole lot in the the very end.
Yeah.
But
We'll have them here on the show very shortly. So you do not want to miss that. Bear with us. We'll go get the babbling that we always do over with as quickly as we possibly can.
You got to talk about your shop.fishingcanada.com and stuff like that.
Speaking of which, yeah, I really like that T-shirt you're wearing. Unfortunately, we don't sell that T-shirt.
No. Why not?
No.
Why wouldn't we?
Because actually, it was an error.
It's a bunch of bullshit.
I'm sorry. Here we go.
There you go.
There you go, everybody.
That was done in error, and you happened to get one, you lucky dog, because I love that shirt.
The podcast as well. It's
I
not
know.
just Outdoor Journal.
I know.
The podcast.
I know,
Well,
but you
thank
can't get it, so I don't know what the deal is there. But maybe we should tell them we want it.
Well, maybe the people can tell us
if they want.
Do you want things?
Why was it a mistake? Was it?
So this was supposed to be, Nick put in an order of That's a Bunch of Bullshit shirt, which normally...
That's a bunch of bullshit.
Thank you. Which normally has a little tiny Outdoor Journal Radio Podcast logo at the very bottom of the shirt. And somehow somebody got it all backwards and took that tiny little logo at the bottom and put it here. And,
wow.
And
in quite a large format as well.
I know.
Well.
And so maybe what we should do, and Nick, do we have any of that stuff left, or is it all gone now? Just wave at me. What do you think? Is it? Yeah. Yeah, it's apparently all gone. So I was going to say, maybe we should just charge...
We brought some to the East Coast.
$1,000 for it or something.
Oh,
I don't know.
$1,000?
Well, it's only one of, or a dozen of, or whatever the case
I'll
was.
sell you mine for $1,000, anybody. Anybody wants that sucker. I mean, give me $5 for it. I'll take it.
Notwithstanding, if you go to fishingcanada.com, go to store.
Shop
at the store. Is that what you're saying? You agree? You want to shop at the store.
I want to store at the shop.
Or you can go to shop.fishingcanada.com. But I much prefer you went to fishingcanada.com and kind of go through the front, maybe sit in the vestibule, have a coffee, I don't know.
That's a bunch of bullshit.
It's a bunch of bullshit.
Have a look at all the other great opportunities there, such as hotspots, such as all kinds of how-tos, such as the news.
Lots of news going on.
The news, for example. Also, you can figure out how to contact us if you've got a question that you've wanted to ask and didn't know how. Well, it's all available there at fishingcanada.com because, after all, it is the portal, the gateway to your next fishing adventure.
There we go. Look at right there behind you. Look at the portal, the gateway to your next. Look at you.
Yeah.
You and Dean are in total sync.
Total sync.
Is that my MacBook Pro? Is that? No.
Speaking of sync. You can do all that. Listener feedback. Speaking of which, listener feedback this week comes to us from Ryan Anderson via email.
That's info@fishingcanada.com.
Come on now.
You said it.
It's a lengthy one, so sit back and enjoy. Why are you laughing?
No, sit back and enjoy. Sit back and enjoy.
Ryan Anderson via email says, episode 135, Angelo, me, and Joe Ford discussing the upcoming Pan Am Derby. We were there 2 weeks ago. It just happened. And he goes on to say, you guys are doing a massive disservice to all competitive anglers in Atlantic Canada with your discussion. You suggested that the professional anglers coming to the Derby can unlock these waters of New Brunswick better than guys who have lived here and fished here their entire lives. Angelo, that's me. You specifically state that the New Brunswick fishery has not seen intelligent fishing pressure and hasn't seen really good anglers that understand patterns and understand fish. Now, there's a lot more to this, but I want to stop right there right now just so that we can deal with it. So I'm going to go back to, I'm going to say the mid-'80s here in Ontario. And a handful of us, guy by the name of Bob Azumi, you might have heard of him, we sort of got together and started fishing. We all loved bass fishing, but we wanted to get together and take it up a notch. So we decided that we should maybe do our own bass tournaments.
Derbies. Let's do some
The
derbies.
old derbies, where we would throw in $100 each and winner take all at the end of it. And we had a great time for a couple of years. And the problem was that, we didn't grow the way we thought we should. We didn't expand our knowledge of bass fishing, especially professional bass fishing, the way we should. Because quite frankly, we had grown as much as we were going to grow, being exposed to our own inner circle in terms of knowledge and understanding and how-tos and all that stuff. And then a wonderful thing happened, and I'll never forget it. A man by the name of Lindner in the late 80s decided to come to Canada and participate in some of our tournaments.
I remember
derbies.
the one Rice Lake. Yeah. Him and Ted Capra.
And Ted Capra. Oh, I remember it very well because one of the most incredible things happened to me that weekend. I learned that in as much as we were passionate and we had a love for bass fishing, I learned that our growth had and we've been fishing serious bass fishing for, between the bunch of us, collectively for 100 years. If you put it all together. I learned that weekend that Al and Ted came up and put on a clinic. I mean, put on a clinic for us.
Oh, yeah. They won that.
They didn't
largely
win it. They destroyed all of us in terms of the tournament results.
Yeah.
And I learned that day that
we knew
what
shit.
we thought.
We knew shit.
Thank you. What we thought we knew was bass fishing. It wasn't.
It was a very small portion. It was bass fishing, but it was a very small portion of
and
bass
it wasn't until that day that we all understood, holy crap, there is a lot more to this thing that we love than what we knew.
I'll give you my take on what Ange is talking about on that situation, because Mike Burris and I fished that same tournament that Ange fished. And after day one, when they came in with this massive bag of fish, we thought, what the hell? What are they doing? They don't ever reveal on day one, but at the day two, they revealed what they were doing out there.
I witnessed the end of day one.
Okay.
I witnessed what they did day one. I told you.
But I didn't see that. So, and then they said they were out fishing deep weed lines, deep. We were all within 30 feet of the bank. The whole Canadian crew was in there smashing the pads, smashing the reeds, doing all that shallow junk stuff and all that stuff. He's out in the middle of the lake. There's no way in hell he's out in the middle of the lake. Little did we know, the major population of largemouth bass at that time were out in the middle of the lake.
And when I say we knew, because we had ringside seats to this happening, Reno and I were fishing a shallow water flat behind a very popular island on Rice Lake that there was probably about 4 or 5 boats. We were all in that 4 to 5 foot flat dunking into the weed growth that was just like a
matted up crap.
Because that's where we always fish, because that's where we learned to fish. That's where
and you caught fish there.
And we did okay.
Every now and then you get a 15-pound bag, 16-pound bag,
Yeah, and it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So towards the end of day one, we're dunking away, and we had maybe we had our limit. I don't even remember, but it was irrelevant because we had small fish. In comes this American boat, and we had not officially met Al and Ted yet. We knew of him because, of course, this is Al Lindner of the in-fisherman fame. Back then, it was like he was the god in fishing in the world, not just Canada or U.S. or Japan or whatever. He was the man. Anyways, they come drifting, and it was like a god on a chariot in a movie. Just they drifted like I say drift, they were full speed. And then Ted, who's at the helm, he eases it back. And as he's easing the boat back, it comes down off plane, just a little bit of spray coming out. And Al jumps out of the seat. And as the boat is coming to a stop, Al is already deploying the electric motor out front. And as he's deploying the electric motor out front, him and Ted pick up their rods and they make a cast in what we thought was a total void area. It had no fish. Like Pete said, they were fishing the deep edge of the weed line in the main basin of Rice Lake. We thought,
a minimum of 8 feet deep or deeper. 8
or
to 12
deeper.
feet,
No, this was
14.
like 12 to 14.
Yeah.
And we thought, wow, that's kind of dumb. I thought they knew what they were doing. Before we had an opportunity to even clue in on what was going on, they had a double header on. Right there where we had been ignoring for all of our lives. We didn't even know that there was fish there.
So true.
We learned
So
that
true.
day. We learned that day, and I apologize to anybody that I may have offended, but we learned that day, Ryan Anderson, that what we witnessed was intelligent fishing pressure. That's when I first heard that terminology, and that's what I've been maintaining, not just in Eastern Canada or Western Canada or Upper U.S. or the Midwest in U.S. Any place where you have got a population of fish that have not been exposed to, I don't want to belittle once again the East Coast anglers at the time that I made that comment, but you equate to what we were when we were first exposed to this American professional angler. We thought we did. We knew enough. We were well-versed in our own little world. And so we thought, between him and Azumi and Crawford and McLaughlin and all of these other names that I'm throwing out there that went on to become something in the fishing industry, we thought amongst us, we knew everything there was to know about bass fishing. That day we learned we knew nothing. And yeah, it's a little bit humiliating, and yeah, it was a little bit embarrassing for sure. But the most important thing is that most of us, if not all of us, came away with a whole new...
Oh, man. Did I ever learn to fish weed lines after that tournament?
Oh, my God.
I could not believe. I said, what in the hell is going on here? Why are these fish here?
Do you remember your first time after that going out to those weed lines?
I don't remember my first time, but I remember some of my later on times where I said, I won't even fish shallow water ever again in my life because there was so many fish.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
You don't have to, work hard into. We learned that you could just cast a worm. Just gently cast a worm, and not far,
What was your favorite worm out there? Do you have
culprit.
One? You had a culprit?
Crawdad colored
6-inch culprit?
6-inch culprit.
We used to
you know
use,
why? Because that's what Al was using.
Oh,
the
yeah.
day that I saw it.
We were throwing craw worms at the time. There was a little craw worm, and it was killer too. So then,
and you just gently, and it was like it
didn't
was
peg
so
your
much
sinker.
fun.
You had a little slip sinker on, let her drop down, whatever. Monofilament line. Yeah.
And that's where the fish were.
Oh man, were they?
That's where the fish. And then
fun.
so that was lesson number one, because we thought we knew what we were doing, but intelligent fishing pressure told us different. And then it happened again in the early 90s, and this time it wasn't an American big shot coming in. It was a Canadian superstar in the name of Bob Azumi, taught us another lesson, because we inadvertently found out where he had spent the last 2 or 3 years fishing. We had no idea.
Winning everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
We had no idea. But intelligent fishing pressure revealed that we were fishing the wrong everything. So I only waste this time to give you these two very important stories because I, first of all, apologize if you took it as offensive. It was not meant to be. I have been on the receiving end of that most of my life. When I see something new, when I see something exciting, when I see something that I learned from, I call myself somebody lacking the intelligence to know that fish are not here, they're over there. So I didn't mean it in a negative manner, but intelligent fishing pressure is exactly what you got in your neck of the woods during this Pan Am tournament series. We had the privilege of watching, is that the one? No, I'm sorry. Where was he? Right here.
Yeah.
Pete and I had the privilege of watching that young man.
And the one right in front of him with the camo pants right there.
Right in front of him, and Scott Martin. We had the privilege of watching them during this event. And man, oh man, did we see some intelligent fishing pressure on the East Coast.
Yeah, they did good.
It was great. It was exciting. So maybe the term intelligent fishing pressure might offend some of you out there. Obviously, one for sure. But it was not meant in a negative fashion at all. And you have to appreciate the fact that the East Coast and its bass fishery are behind where, say, and I don't want to make this a geography thing, but behind where, say, Ontario bass anglers are, and who are probably still behind where southern U.S. anglers are. So there's always going to be somebody who has got a little bit more fishing intelligence for a certain species at a certain time in a certain pattern that we can learn from. Always going to be. Don't take it as a negative. Take it as a learning opportunity. Did I do good?
You done good, kid.
That's all I can say about that.
You know what? And ending on that point is that it's a never-ending pool of knowledge. You can't. You cannot. You will die with more fishing things that you don't know about in your head. You know what I mean? I know. I'm trying to learn all the time, and I'm just chipping at that iceberg. That's all I'm doing. It's just chipping away. You know, and there's so much more behind there. So. And
when you go into a community that has not, I'll use the word exploited. Once again, don't take that word as negative. When you go into a community that has not yet learned to exploit a species of fish, exploit in the sense that you're enjoying it for recreational activities. When you go into a community that has not yet exploited that fish, I get giddy with excitement because I say those fish have not been exposed to intelligent fishing pressure yet. And that's what I meant by that comment. I get excited and giddy because it's a great opportunity for the local folks to learn something and help it with their enjoyment of the recreation called angling. I remember going to the St. John River muskie fishing for the first time a few years ago and speaking to local muskie anglers who had been, fishing muskie for 5, 6, 7 years at this point. And how hungry they were for dialogue about how muskie behave in other parts of the world, because they knew that by learning about muskie behavior, say in Ontario or Wisconsin or any place else that muskies prevail, they knew that by learning from other folks, it was going to help them with their muskie fishing. And bass fishing is no different.
True.
It's no different. There was more opportunity to learn during the Pan Am Black Bass Championship in New Brunswick a few weeks ago than there probably will be for the next 30 years. And it was all there because there was intelligent fishing pressure on that water.
The problem is, how do you learn from that, though? That's the problem. Well, they might learn through the Fishing Canada episode that we shot. No, we watch these guys. That's the only way you can really learn is to watch them.
But you know what happens. The Lindner story on Rice Lake. You know what happened after that event, right?
Oh, yeah.
I told you, you told him, he told him, and boom, all of a sudden, everybody discovered deep water weed lines and weed points on Rice Lake. It wasn't that we were all sitting in a theater watching Al put on this demonstration. It was the fact that it spreads. And I think what's going to happen in Eastern Canada, I think all those special moments that you and I experienced are going to, everybody's going to be talking about it. And that's growth. There is nothing wrong with that. I'll put my hand up and say, I learned I learned something during that event.
Hell yeah.
On the St. John River. I learned from better anglers than myself. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with saying that. Better anglers than myself, not from this part of the world, that came into our country, they taught me something. I'm not embarrassed to tell you that. Don't be embarrassed when I say intelligent fishing pressure. Please. It's not meant in a negative or derogatory fashion at all.
Good.
End of story.
Move on.
Let's move on. Conservation Corner.
The grass carp. Speaking of invasive species, which our guests have a lot to do with, in that.
Oh my God,
that's
right
too. Oh yeah, it's all in the obviously one of four. We've talked about this time and time again. One of four species of Asian carp that are threatening our Great Lakes, which we're going to talk a lot about today. Great Lakes, and then obviously the tributaries that come in and out of the Great Lakes too, right?
This one is the grass carp, which we've been harping on for years as well. It was introduced to the southern U.S. to control aquatic plants. And how ironic that today it's looked upon as the
demise
biggest
of
potential demise of aquatic plants.
Yeah, no
Who
kidding.
knew? They can eat up to 40% of their weight each and every day. And it doesn't matter whether they're 5 pounds or 105 pounds. 40% is all we need to key in on. 40% of their body weight in greens.
And they're destroying. Those are the greens that the zooplankton, the little baby fish, that the minnows, and then of course the perch, the pike, the bass, the trout, everything else need to survive. Right? They need that for their food source too. So
that's like you eating 40 pounds a day. 45 pounds a day.
No, it's just 40% of their body weight. So
right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
40 pounds. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt that you're only weighing 110 pounds these days.
Geez, I wish. I used
what
to
do you
weigh.
Our scale at the gym is broken.
According to their scales at the gym, I'm up to 140.
Oh, wow.
And I've never been to 140 in my life, and I know that scale's full of shit.
Gene, did you witness
I had a problem
this?
with the scale too. I'm like 195 right now.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So apparently I gained 10 to 15 pounds we gained on that on our trip to
I come back to Dean. I says, by the way, Dean, have you been on that new scale at the gym? And he goes, yeah. Why? I says, well, I gained 20 pounds on this trip.
No.
But it was 20 pounds compared to the old scale they had at another part of the gym. I says, I know I drank a few beers and I ate a lot of desserts and shit, but I don't know if I could gain 20 pounds in a trip like that on a little guy like me. So
that's a lot of weight for you to gain.
So I didn't gain that. The scales are
off.
Obviously off.
I did eat a lot of Timbits and stuff though. We did
do this.
The Timbits at us.
We did, but I had another young lad. I said, we were standing right by that scale, and I said to this guy, I said, dude, just get on there. And he went on, and I went, wow, right over 220 something pounds. He says, no, this is not right. So everybody's freaking out. Okay. So they can't be right because this guy's stacked, but he's not, and stocky, but he's not 220 pounds.
Anyways, so I was giving him the benefit of the doubt.
But I'm going to say I'm about 125 right now.
Okay, so
I want to be 120.
All right, so can you imagine you consuming 50 pounds of your favorite food every day? How long would it take you to exhaust the supply of that food?
Yeah, no kidding. Or my wallet. But
whichever.
Right.
Something would be exhausted after a while.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's happening with the grass carp.
It's a lot of Cheerios right there, buddy.
Oh, man.
It's a lot of Cheerios.
Now, they are not, they are prevalent, but fortunately for us, there's very few
sightings or
established. There is evidence of them being in the Great Lakes. There's DNA evidence of them, or maybe even a fish or two that has been inadvertently caught, but they haven't taken a foothold yet, and we still have time to be able to do our part in making sure that doesn't happen. And one of the best ways we can as anglers, not that you're going to go fishing for them, because there's something that eats that much vegetation, I don't think would be interested in a spinnerbait. But regardless, What we can do is arm ourselves with the knowledge, certainly in terms of identifying them.
AsianCarp.ca. That's all you have to do. Go to, and like Ann says, you may never see one again, but what does it hurt to know what it looks like, right? And then you will be armed and ready, just in case. Armed and Ready, great song, by the way. Armed and Ready, Michael Schenker Group. But anyway, you'll be armed and ready, and you can, then if you see one of these things, you can identify it, and you can report it to the Invasive Species Center, to the MNRF, I should say, et cetera, because it's important that we all stay ahead of the game here. This is something that we are trying to prevent. So stay ahead of the game, just learn what they look like, and then take care of business after.
How would you take care of business? What would happen if we're sitting, I don't know, we're bass fishing in an area that is shallow enough for us to be able to see one of these critters?
Oh, so at first I'd have to capture it, right? I'd have to capture it, so I would...
How the hell would you catch it?
I know how I would do it, but I don't want to say it on a public...
On a mic.
On a public
on a hot
podcast,
mic.
You know what I mean? What I would do, since... No, I can't really.
You can't even do that. You can't even say that because that would be illegal.
Like normally I carry my 410 shotgun in the boat with me, right? But then I might need a 22, and then no, I don't. Everybody, I don't.
This
carry
is
guns
where, and I hate saying
they do it in the
this.
East Coast sometimes, though.
They do.
The East Coasters take care of that business good.
This is where you'd want to be one of those bow hunter guys in the water that are going after common carp, which I just can't
why not keep
imagine.
a nice little compound, like a kid's compound bow or something like that, tucked away in the rod locker, just for that reason. It's not illegal to have that in a boat.
I don't know.
Dean, I don't think so, right?
No, I don't think so.
Let me throw a disclaimer out right now. The views and opinions of what Mr. Bowman just said is not necessarily the views and opinions of the Outdoor Journal Radio podcast.
That's
or
right.
the network or of any of its affiliates and or partners.
I apologize. You guys are going to let them swim, and I'm going to kill them. Come
no,
on.
I'm not suggesting that we do that, but I was just, there's no real easy way around that issue, is there?
No, I think it's a matter of, if you see one, you would report it. And if you capture one accidentally by snagging or whatever, you bring it in your boat and don't release it and report it. I think that's the way to do it. And take a GPS location, pinpoint it, waypoint it where you see it, and tell the MNRF and the AsianCarp.ca people.
That was Conservation Corner, brought to you by the folks at Invasive Species Center.
Yeah.
There you go. Podcast Network highlights. Speaking of said podcast and not being the opinion of, Diaries
Stevie
of a Lodge Owner.
Stevie would let me
of course he would.
one.
He's a bigger Neanderthal than you are, for God's sakes.
Our team.
Podcast Network. I mentioned that we are a network. Some highlights that we like to bring to your attention from time to time. Take place every week, actually. This week we're urging you to go to Diaries of a Lodge Owner, episode 64, that just went up. Because Steve's guest on that episode is none other than Rex Burkhead of Superbowl fame.
Stevie when he was talking about this, he kept saying, "You gotta wait, you gotta check this out." I haven't heard it yet, but you gotta check it out. You gotta check it out. So he's really excited about this one. So it must be pretty good.
This guy played with Tom Brady on the Super Bowl winning team.
Who?
Yeah, exactly.
Look at is that Rex?
See,
Look at that
Tom
football
Brady.
player. Look at that football player.
See, if Tom Brady showed up here, if Tom Brady showed up at the local high school while the local high school is practicing football, right? And he just showed up. And he spent a couple hours with them, showing them a thing or two. Would you say that was intelligent football pressure that Tom Brady brought to the local high school?
No, it's not pressure. It's intelligent football.
Intelligent football. Okay, correct. Take the word pressure out. Would you say that Tom Brady would deliver intelligent football? Not because the kids aren't intelligent.
It would be an absolute treat. It would be like a free seminar.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
A free boot camp, if you will.
Exactly.
So...
Anyways, check out the episode. It is called Superbowl Champion Rex Burkhead. What a creative... Whoever writes the titles for these episodes, right? It's very creative, but very...
I could make a title out,
sure you
but
could.
I won't do that.
Sure
I was going to say Steve Niedzwiecki, some kind of, head. If he made that title up. If Dean did it, oh, sorry, Dean. You didn't do that.
Anything, did I miss anything, Dean, about that episode that you'd like to maybe comment further on?
No.
There's very little here.
Will. So Will was the one that brought Rex on. I guess they met at Nordic Point. Like a few weeks after we were there, I think.
Oh.
I think we just missed him.
Well, we just missed Leo. We just missed
Leo. We missed
Rex.
Rex.
Wow, we're missing everybody. Are they avoiding us? Do you think people are avoiding us, Angelo?
I don't know, but we have these close encounters in the outdoors on a regular basis. I don't know whether that's good or bad. I mean, you can look at it as bad by saying these people want to avoid us, so
usually
they'll
we're
just
following these guys, and then we get the leftovers. But this time we got ahead of the game, I guess.
Speaking of the outdoors. Thank you. Sail is your home for all things deer hunting. It is the season.
Oh yeah, it is.
Hunting season,
there.
baby.
Dean, when does
season.
deer open? The first of deer hunting, is it bow or is
Ontario is October 1.
October 1, so it's open.
It's open.
And that's bow hunting right now, right? And then the gun season in
Normally,
Ontario?
like first week in November, and then that closes, and then bow is back open until Christmas.
And the gun season is 2 weeks long, or is it?
Depends where you are. Down here, it's like 6 days.
Oh, okay.
Up north, it's a couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's upon us for sure.
It is
anything you might need for trekking out into the wilderness this time of year, because it is a special time of year to be outdoors. There's no doubt about it.
It's my favorite. It is my favorite.
For sure.
And fishing and hunting and anything. Just hiking. Now it's not, the mornings are so fresh and all that stuff, but you got to dress properly. Sail's got an absolute array of quality outerwear at the store too. So not just the hunting products, but the clothing too. So
if you don't have a Sail store near you, well, that's unfortunate for you. We have one almost like right there. So we just get up when we need a fix. We just walk on in there and holy moly,
there we go.
Here we are. So
hide your visa.
If you don't, do not despair. Just go to sail.ca. That's SAIL.ca. And search for whatever you're looking for. Chances are real good you'll find it there. And you'll find stuff that maybe you didn't even know you needed until you see that some of it could be up to 60% off.
That's right.
Oh my.
At any given time.
It's a very neat little system they have on their website in that you go to the clearance part of it. Then on the sidebar they have, you want to have 40 to 50% off, you click that. You unclick that, you want 60% off, click that, and you sorts everything out. Yeah, it's very, very intuitive, very easy to work.
And that's great news for all of us. Let me tell you that is available.
Yeah.
And we were talking about news.
Oh. Is that a segue to me? In the news, Ontario looking for hunter support monitoring chronic wasting disease. So obviously this is a big thing in the deer world, in the whitetail deer world. Oh, look at that beast. Oh my God. That's a rack.
I think he's sticking his tongue out.
Look at the size of the neck and the body on that thing. Like, I'm not a real deer expert, but that's got a tiny head compared to that body, doesn't he? Do you know?
Yeah,
is that kind of like
that's a big boy.
That's a big boy. So what the MNRF is doing here now, I believe it's the MNRF, right? In Ontario here. In Zone 1, which is Peterborough to Belleville, in Wildlife Management's Units 68A, 71, 74, 74B, and Zone 2, Owen Sound to Orangeville to Kincardine. What they want to do is they want to get hunters to actually give the heads of their deer to the MNRF, to study for chronic wasting disease. Now, you're going to say, I'm not giving the head of my deer away. It's my trophy, and I want to get it mounted. No, you will get it back. They will tag it. They will mark it. They will do everything. You're just helping this whole system along to try and see if chronic wasting disease is actually in Ontario. Because I believe there's still not any reports of it. Is there, Dean?
No, we've never had it confirmed.
Never had one, but
which is pretty amazing.
They're staying ahead
everywhere.
of it, like our carp, like our invasive grass carp. You know what I mean? They're staying ahead of the game. So, yeah. You just get a hold of the MNRF if you're in those zones, and they will freeze that deer head for you and all that. And then if you want it back for any reason, then you can get it back. If you don't, I'm sure they'll dispose of it. And you're helping along the whole. You're
helping along the way.
System.
And you're helping yourself. If you're thinking, well, I don't need it, because believe me, there's people out there who don't necessarily. You're helping yourself.
That's right. And the end result, if you want to get your test results of your deer, ontario.ca/CWD. So you'll even get the results of the tests. So
isn't that lovely?
I think it's a great idea.
And
I love the fact that they're doing stuff like this.
And we have this on the website, Dean, something along this line?
Yep, it'll be on the website.
So it's all on fishandcanada.com. As you listen to this podcast, you can even go there right now and continue listening to us, but read some of the
they could do that,
information. I found out something of interest, and the reason I brought that up, by the way, that's fishandcanada.com in case you were wondering. But I found out the reason I say that, because I'm very confident now that our audience is capable of that. That is, reading something and listening to something. And I'll tell you why. Last night at supper, my grandson, who was staying with us for a little bit, we were having a wonderful discussion because I said to him, and I kind of said it, it was a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. I said, so, how's that whole new deal going where you're no longer allowed to have telephones in class? Because I was kind of, proud finally, because I've been saying for years.
Get rid of that bullshit.
Exactly.
There's a bunch of bullshit.
He says, "Oh, it's all right. It was why do you make such a big deal of it?" It's a big deal. Because I think it should have been made a big deal from the beginning.
I could have just heard you.
Because I think that it's wrong that you guys had access to your phone.
They're not enforcing it, are they? Are they?
No.
I knew it. I knew something like that was going to come.
And now he said to me, he says, I still use it. What do you mean you still use it? It's supposed to be against the whole school regulations, isn't it? He says, yeah. He says, what happens is you have to hang it up. Apparently they have somewhere in the class, everybody has a little pocket on the wall with their name on it, and you have to put your phone in there, right? I would have thought that would have taken care of business, but these little buggers have already figured a way through. With his phone.
Or with his watch.
With his watch.
Oh, my God.
Because Apple is talking to Apple, and therefore he can still do everything that he wants to do, including listening to either music and or podcasts and or
porn. Come on. I mean, people can do that, obviously.
So really nothing's changed other than we've probably gone to great expense to make the little hanger things for everybody.
And now they're selling more watches.
And now they're selling more watches. Apple's, I love it.
Thank you so much for that. See, now, I always thought, you could also just take a fake phone or your second phone, drop that in. Mine just died. I just take my fake phone, put that in there, and then I got a fake phone for sale.
But if they see you, then obviously they would have to do no. But in this case,
I know it's brilliant. It's brilliant
because you're doing your work,
and then you can't take your watch off because you need to know what time it is.
You have to know what time it is. How do you know when the class is over? I'm telling you.
The big clock on the wall. They don't even know how to read an analog clock, those kids, do they? They don't even know.
Oh, God.
What's that hand saying? What is a hand?
Frustrating. It's very frustrating.
Oh, my God. At least he confessed to you. But he bet you he confessed in a proud way, didn't he? He said, yeah, Grandpa? Well, I'll lay one back at your court here.
There's no problem. We got it covered. What do you mean you got it covered?
Oh, my God.
It says you cannot you can't have your phone in your hand and do stuff on your phone.
That's crazy.
I said, that's the whole. That's why I got one of those.
We are screwed. We are so screwed.
Fan question of the week, Mr. Bowman, brought to you by the good folks at fishfindermounts.com. Probably the single most important URL that you as an angler needs to burn into your psyche.
Well, okay, let's combine that with Garmin.com as well, because you need that to use Garmin stuff.
But that's like saying you have feet in order to wear shoes. It's obvious. The only thing you can put on your feet is shoes. Well, I'm assuming the only thing
bare feet. You saw it, and that dude there. You had that picture up there. That dude fishes bare feet
people who are not using Garmin, you might say they are walking around barefoot. So there you go. That would have been a drum roll.
Oh,
by
I
the
just
way,
did that.
Dean.
I
I know
just
you
did that.
did, but I'm just pointing out to Dean. He's new on the show, eh?
Yeah,
I have my other buttons up here because I have one prepared.
Yeah, he's
he's got one prepared.
Dean has abandoned
Here we go,
the
Dean.
very thing
Here we go, buddy.
that we needed him for. You know?
His good looks. Isn't that what we need him for, his good looks?
Well, yeah. That
Get
goes
all the
without
chicks watching
saying.
our show because they won't want to watch us.
It goes without saying.
Okay.
But anyways.
What was the one thing that Dean was that he's
there you go.
What is Dean
good
abandoned?
work, brother. Good work.
Anyways, this fan question by fishfindermouse.com is from Colin Sanders from Ontario via email, info@fishingcanada.com. You can do it either through that or our Facebook page or our Instagram page. Okay, with Halloween around the corner, so Halloween's coming up in a few weeks here, a couple weeks. Do you have any spooky fishing stories? Something eerie that happened to you while out fishing? Maybe a creepy fishing story you've heard from a friend. It behooved me. It stumped me on this one.
This is a testament that we don't get these in advance so that we can prepare for them. These questions that we read. Now, Dean, on the other hand, he gets this in advance because he's the guy who selects them, but he doesn't let us see them until
that piece of paper is there all morning.
Well, do you think I'm just sitting around like you waiting for things to do? My day is scheduled minute to minute to minute to minute.
And if he gets in here 3 minutes before the podcast, you know what the other minutes are.
Exactly.
He can't even get into
I
work.
was even wearing a beautiful suit today, a jacket, as you saw, which means that when I was already up working, representing this morning, you were still in bed doing whatever it is you do in the wee hours.
Representing. Looking like a pimp. You were pimping out there, weren't you?
By the way, have you watched Snoop Dogg on The Voice?
I watched him last night. He's great. I told you he was great. Remember I told you I watched him?
He is outstanding. I got to tell you.
But I think Bublé's even better. Bublé might be the best ever. He is so freaking good.
He is good.
Oh my God!
I remember I told you I don't know. I don't think I'm going to enjoy it this year with those two guys on.
They make the show.
They are outstanding.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Snoop he's
Snoop
magic.
Is Snoop. He starts rapping lyrics. He starts talking these lyrics to people that tell them how good they are. It's like, oh my God, it's so good. Anyways,
spooky Halloween stories involving fishing.
The only thing I don't remember anything. I remember some spooky stuff during the outdoor journal shoots. The lions roaring in Kruger Park at nighttime, stuff like that.
Oh my God!
So we were all part of that.
Spooky.
We weren't fishing, but we were in a camp, and I think we've talked about this on the Outdoor Journal podcast. But those lions roaring, there's nothing like that.
Now listen, everything we did on Outdoor Journal had an element of spookiness. Let's be honest about it.
The shrunken heads in the headhunter place in Borneo, like they had these shrunken little heads in that big net, baskety looking thing like that. You put that in a dark situation at Halloween, that would be about as spooky as it gets. There was some crazy stuff like that.
I've told this story before, Colin, but maybe you didn't hear it. So I will do this for your benefit because you took the time to write in. And so I'm going to tell you the story before. Pete and I obviously have traveled extensively together over the last 4 decades. And we've gotten to know each other quite well. And one of the things that Peter is famous for is he has no pulse. He has no blood. He has no blood in his veins. So to see him truly, I on the other hand, have enough pulse for him and everybody else because I get very emotional about things. I get excited about things. I have ups and downs, and he's just, okay, whatever, So anyways, an old camera buddy of ours, Todd Monroe, and I were always figuring, what is it going to take to get this guy, the least bit excited. So we were on a shoot in some decrepit part of the world. This was an Outdoor Journal shoot. And we were staying in a very dark, dreary, you might call it scary motel. And man, it was bad. Like, if you had one light bulb working in this room, you were lucky. So I remember Todd saying, hey, I got a great idea how we can get to Pete. And the conversation started taking shape.
See what I got to put up with in this shoot. So
and it was decided that what we were Pete and I were rooming together. It was decided that the way that I was going to get him was to come jumping out from behind this shower curtain. It was only 2 of the 8 rings that was still attached to the curtain. The rest were all pulled out, and it was mildew and stuff and all over the curtain. It was like spider webs, no light bulb in the shade. Anyways, what I was going to do, Todd was going to distract him. I was going to go to the room first. And having lived with Pete for so long, I knew what his habits were. As soon as he comes in the room, first thing he does, he goes and has a pee. So we decided that I was going to get to the room before him, and I was going to get behind that decrepit-looking curtain, shower curtain, and it was a little wee bathroom. The pisser was like almost in the shower, and so like the curtain, he's almost touching the curtain with his shoulder while he's peeing, right? That's how small it was. No lights. It was creepy. The game plan was I was going to go in and hide behind the curtain, and then when he's halfway through, like midstream, I was going to jump out. I was going to pull the rest of the curtain and he was going to piss himself. That was the game plan.
Piss himself.
And so I went in and hid behind the curtain, and I'm waiting. Sure as hell, I hear him coming to the room. I think, oh boy, here it goes. And I'm getting I was scared just from just sheer joy and excitement of what we were finally going to witness him with an elevated blood level of some kind. So he comes in, and I wait, and I wait, and I wait, because I wanted this to be midstream. I didn't want him to be able to stop what he was doing. And I wait, and then finally I grabbed the curtain, I yanked it back, and he looks up at me. Oh, hi, buddy. What are you doing in there? Didn't miss a drop. Meanwhile, I shit myself just from the excitement of what I did. So anyway, that was
a spooky moment for
you.
That
was for me, not for you. Clearly not for you. He said, oh, what are you doing in there, buddy?
Oh, God.
There's our spook story.
There it is. Pretty good.
We interrupt this program to bring you the much-anticipated bonus code for the latest Fish in Canada giveaways. This week's code is PICTURE. That's PICTURE, P-I-C-T-U-R-E. Just type that in the bonus code section of the contest and receive 100 free entries towards all our current giveaways. For those who haven't entered yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Head on over to fishingcanada.com while you listen to the rest of this episode. Click contests and sign up for all the latest Fish in Canada giveaways. And now, back to the show. Alrighty, this is the part I've been waiting for. I know you too.
Yeah, buddy.
As mentioned, we've had these folks on the program before. We were as excited then as we are today after what we just witnessed yesterday or the day before. Yvonne Drebert and Zach Melnick join us now, owner-directors of this incredible product under the label of Planet Productions. How you doing, guys?
Good.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
My God, did you ever, you were part of our day yesterday. I got to tell you, for people saying, what the hell is he talking about? We were privy to a link that brought us to their latest endeavor. I'm talking an incredible piece of cinematography, great storytelling. Whoever wrote it, hats off to anyway, just a masterpiece.
It is world class. It really is.
It's a masterpiece.
Honestly, it is.
It's a masterpiece.
Well,
it is that good.
Do we have to do any more? I think we're done now.
We're done.
We're here. Yeah, we got to be. Yeah. So
oh my God, you did so it. Good for you, folks.
You know, it's all. It's all about, shining that spotlight on the Great Lakes. We see a lot of fabulous ocean, coral reef sharks. We see that everywhere. But, the Great Lakes, our freshwater systems don't get that same kind of love. So really, we were trying to give them that, BBC Planet Earth treatment, right?
You did that for sure. And you know what? It's funny that what you're saying here is that we are all enthralled with the ocean and the sharks. But if you want to take it to another level, I still think there'd be a lot of interest in the Great Lakes, the biggest system of joined freshwater lakes together.
And think about
so
that.
Huge.
I didn't realize it until you just said it. Now you basically reiterated what Yvonne just said. If you wanted to study the planet's health in terms of fresh water, right, which obviously fresh water plays an important role in our lives. If you wanted to study how the planet is doing in terms of fresh water, is there a better place? I mean, the Great Lakes, I think, collectively would be the biggest source of fresh water in the world. And think of everything's dumping into it. We've got waterways spilling into it. We've got lakes that
and
are feeding
dumping
from
out
it,
of it,
feeding from it.
Yeah.
Everything. It's like the heart of the planet
and
in
it's
terms of fresh water.
so diverse, and especially when you'll watch it, and we're getting more of the videos here, but there's Lake Superior to Lake Erie. There's such a diversity in these bodies of water that it's incredible, and throughout, they all change throughout. So, and of course, the water clarity doesn't hurt. That they can shoot awesome stuff there.
So sorry for taking up time here, just because we're excited, obviously, as you can tell. For people who are tuning in for the first time to you on this show, can you just quickly bring them up to speed as to what you are, what you're doing, and how they can get involved with you and watch your stuff?
Sure. So we have spent the last 3 years using underwater drones to film underwater in the Great Lakes to show people what's going on down there, in particular in relation to this tremendous invasion of the invasive quagga mussel, which has really changed how those systems work, especially that offshore ecosystem that humans rarely go. So
what is offshore? Define offshore, if you could, please, to people. Define what you're calling offshore.
So what we're calling the offshore is basically the spot where, the average humans don't go. Most people interact just with that sort of narrow strip along the edge of the lakes where they might swim or cast a line over, or even if they go out fishing in a small boat, the lakes are so big and scary that, a lot of people don't venture out into that vast open lake system, which is, the largest source, as you say, of
freshwater on the planet.
Freshwater on Earth, and it gets deep. Most of the lakes are much deeper than people would go normally and try to fish, if you're a sports fisher. So that was that sort of offshore land that has really been transformed, because if you go out there today, and it's just sort of this sea of invasive quagga mussels, and there are science folks who were trying to tell people this was happening for a long time, but really only recently has this technology been available where we can get down there with extremely low light sensitive cameras and really shine a light on it in a way that hasn't been possible before.
And of course, the show also includes, all of your favorite fish friends. Those nearshore fishes, like, we spend some time with muskie and smallmouth bass, and of course, it includes some footage of lake trout spawning. So we're also looking at, those systems that are still doing well, and the ones that are a little bit more in trouble. So it's a fun kind of romp through the natural world of the Great Lakes.
If you're into fishing, if you're into angling, you have to see what we witnessed yesterday, because the interesting part, aside from being great cinematography, great, I mean, the artistry was just incredible in that whole piece. Aside from that, but as anglers, we're looking at your imagery from a totally different viewpoint, right? We're saying, why is that muskie facing that way? Look at what it's doing. It's just that far off the bottom. Like, we're looking at it from angling. So I'm asking every angler that's watching this right now, if you're serious about your craft, you have to check these folks out, because there's some things there that I think we can all learn from.
Yeah, and not just that, Ange. I think it's because we're so deep in fishing, our species, the fish themselves, there's an interest in that. I mean, when you see the way these guys portray it, like the lake trout shots that they have in there, but the colors on the fins, when they're spawning together and touching each other, it blows your mind. It's just, you love these animals already, and now, wow, here's a new view that you've never seen before. So it's just so cool.
Yeah.
I never thought.
And those lake trout.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say that lake trout stuff was when we first realized this was possible was in the fall of 2021, and we talked with the folks at the M&R, and we were like, okay, we'd like to try to film some lake trout. You guys have been trying to rehabilitate this species for decades. It's just starting to do well. Let's go and try to get some really good footage of it with these underwater drones. And when we put the underwater drone down there and the lake trout were just swimming by us and the colors were amazing and the sun was coming in the water, it looked just like a reef in the ocean, like it was a scene from a Disney movie or something, but it was just like right outside in the Great Lakes. So at that moment was when we realized, we can totally make this show and show people our, friendly freshwater fishes in the Great Lakes in a way that they haven't seen them before, and hopefully give people a greater appreciation for the life that's down there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what the robot really just allows us to spend, hours at a time underwater. It can spend up to 12 hours swimming around down there. So often, we'll find an individual fish, and at first they might be a little, standoffish, but over time they'll realize we're not going to try to eat them. And then they'll, either, start feeding or take us to their friends. And then we'll just get to see things that, folks from the scientific community are like, oh, we didn't know this about fish behavior. Right. So it's been really fun for us to see, those animals we already love and how they respond and how they act naturally in the world.
You just answered one of Dean's and my conversation this morning. We were talking about if the fish, this big robot coming at them, are they afraid? Are they not? We just answered that question. They acclimate to it. You got lots of time. They get used to it. They know it's not a threat. It's not a predator. And then all of a sudden, hey, let's go.
Or even if it is a predator, we've seen through the technology that we use, we've seen that predator-prey relationship is not hostile 24/7.
God, no.
In fact, it's not hostile even an hour out of the 24/7. But when it turns hostile, it's hostile and it's over and it's done, and then everybody goes back to coexisting in that environment. And that's, you guys are capturing that in spades with your technology. So. As I said before, if you're a serious angler and you don't watch this, shame on you. It's, if I may say so without sounding crude, it's as close to fish porn as anybody is ever going to document.
Well, those spawning lake trout, that was fish porn.
For sure.
There's a lot of, it's
that is
still,
cool.
I think, rated PG, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the history of your production company and yourselves in the field of production.
Yeah, so we're actually a husband and wife team, and we've been making documentaries together for about 20 years. Still married after all that.
Hello.
And so we've done a lot of like science and natural history stuff. And, the way we first started getting into trying to tell fish stories, we worked on Great Bear Lake in the Northwest Territories, and they have these fabulous lake trout up there, world record size breaking lake trout. And we were looking for a better way to tell fish stories because, we can't be underwater for that long. And at the same time, after we were finished that show, we started looking out our back door. We live on the Soggy Bruce Peninsula on Lake Huron. And, the guy we used to buy fish from was no longer fishing anymore. And that kind of started us on this journey of what's going on out there in the lakes that, we can't get whitefish. And down the rabbit hole we went, and this whole quagga mussel invasion story started unfolding. And then at the same time, these new ROVs that are designed specially for cinema came on the market, and the timing was just magical. Because basically the two of us can launch one of these things, and go to the bottom of Lake Huron on a Saturday if we feel like.
Right.
I think I mentioned last time you were on, I think I mentioned back in 1991, I want to say maybe 92, we actually got into that. We had this big robotic, cumbersome
monster.
Just a monster. It weighed a ton. It had 150-foot umbilical cord, but the problem with the cord, it was stiff and it was awkward.
Big. It was like a hose, like a garden hose.
It was like a garden hose. So you can imagine on at that time an 18 or even 17-foot boat, we had this monstrosity and all of this coiled garden hose, and deploying it was a nightmare. And then as soon as it would hit the water, we had no idea where we were because we didn't have the telemetry that you guys have got. We didn't know they were pointing that way or that way or that way or that way. We didn't know how deep we were. All we did was for the very first time we had eyes underwater, and that intrigued us tremendously. And we spent the next, 2 decades trying to improve on that, and we never did. So we were ultra excited when we saw what you guys have done.
Now we just stick a GoPro down on a pole.
Yeah, that's it. That's enough.
That's all we do.
Do either of you or both of you dive? Are you divers as well?
We are divers. Going into the show, we thought, we're really going to have to, we're not amazing divers. We're not tech divers, nothing like that. But, going into the show, we thought, we're really going to have to get better certifications and that kind of thing. But, we just ended up using the robot every time because it's just so much easier. It's safer. And we can just do so much more with it. It can go from the surface, to 300 feet down and nobody dies.
True.
True enough. My God, that's incredible range. So you've got a 300-foot depth capability with this monster.
Well, actually, we have a 1,600-foot depth capability with this monster. So we can go to the very deepest part of Lake Superior, which is 440 meters deep.
Wow.
And before that would have taken a big ship with a crew, and it would have cost tens of thousands of dollars per day, right? And so that's what's totally changed with this technology, where Yvonne and I can go out on a Saturday and do deep sea exploration. It's cool. Great Lakes style for a tiny fraction of the cost of what it used to be.
Just the two of you. Like you don't need...
so often...
Wow.
Yeah, so we've got to launch this. We can show you how it's done. To launch this robot, we had a boat built by the folks from Henley up on Manitoulin Island, and it's a landing craft style. So the front comes down.
Right.
So just the two of us will operate it. We've got a little cabin. Zach will be driving it back in the cabin, and I'll be out front. And then how we operate, we've got a little trolling motor on there with spot lock, so that we go out, we put the spot lock on. We never deal with anchors because they're the worst. Throw on the spot lock, put the robot down. We can go down, 300 feet without a problem. We just spend time under there, and that's how we end up seeing so many cool, fish and habitats of the Great Lakes, just putting that time in. And often, we'll have a plan about what we're hoping to get, or, we know this species is spawning, that kind of thing. But it's pretty amazing when our first sturgeon, just came up to us and checked our robot out, which was this very cool feeling.
In that documentary too, there are some shots. I don't know if you went deeper. I remember you saying 300 plus feet and some of that stuff. I think those sculpins maybe, or wherever it was, there was something that was in 200 to 300 feet, and people that are trying to wonder, does it even show up? It shows up as clear as day. They may have to throw the lights on it, but it's just unbelievable still, even at that depth. So you can see everything.
Well, the amazing thing about the Great Lakes now is that because the mussels have cleared that water, that deep water ecosystem is much clearer than even most ocean ecosystems. And so we're able to go down to, 300, 400, 500 feet. And in fact, we're able to get an image that's very good in 250, 300 feet, 320 feet, almost 400 feet of water without lights at all.
Wow.
And so a number of those shots are from that 300-foot range where you see those endless expanses of mussels or a ship And that would have been totally impossible before the mussels, really, to see that, and the very low light sensitivity of the camera system as well. So this camera system is designed, if you're filming on the surface, to be like a moonlight camera. So if you're down that deep right now, it's still very dim. It's sort of like moonlight environment, but we can use this technology to sort of make that look much brighter, and so you get that full view of what's going on down there.
Right. That's Vova, cameraman from
Vova, coming in here.
Yep. You won't be able to see me, but just listen to the voice. Just awesome job on the documentary. I just watched it in a single sitting. Yeah, it was on the company time, but that's a different.
I paid for that.
It's your job.
It's his job, right?
Yeah, but it was well worth it. I have so many production questions, but like, just the quality of the footage that you're getting is superb. And I just couldn't stop thinking, what happens if you get tangled somewhere with that? Because that drone, I assume it's tethered to the main remote, right?
Yeah. And so it's always tethered. We can't send a signal yet through the water the same way we can through the air with aerial drones. So we always have a tether. We've got, what's special about this robot, it's a fiber optic tether. So it's 2.7 millimeters thick. So it's not the garden hose that you guys had before.
We would have been, we could have done so much with that. That's not fair.
There's still time for you. There's still time. Come with us. But it's this 2.7 millimeter thick fiber optic tether. And so it's covered in Kevlar, so it's still really strong. But we can send a lot of information. You know, we're working in 4K in real time when the robot's, 300 feet down, and we can still change all the camera settings when it's 300 feet down that we would if we had the camera in our hand. But yeah, the tether management is a thing. And so when we're operating, Zach is piloting the craft, and my job is to manage that tether, pulling it in, pulling it out, moving our boat around so that we're avoiding obstacles. Right. And whenever we're operating, we're always thinking about, where's the robot? Where's the tether going to be? Are we going to run into anything? One of the jobs we just did was working with some folks in the U.S. to film shipwrecks for a shipwreck sanctuary. And that's a case where, you need to be super careful about where you are, what the tether is doing. You don't want to get caught up in the rigging. But the cool thing about, being able to see in real time when you're down there is that if we do get snagged on something, we can turn around and look at it and figure out, okay, I need to go this way to get.
We need that for our lures.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's good. No kidding.
And actually, we have another robot, like a little one with a claw we can bring in.
Come on, really?
Pull the tether off the...
As a just in case.
Oh, that's
like
awesome.
a rescue
That's
kind of
not
situation.
fair.
That's cool.
Not fair at all.
Have you ever come...
the little one.
Piggybacking on Volva's question, have you ever come close to your tether getting caught in the spot lock trolling motor?
That's
in
what
the
I was
prop? Because we get fishing lines sometimes get caught in and stuff like that. You ever had that?
Yeah. So when I'm on deck, I'm wearing the little, Minn Kota remote, and that's one of my jobs. I'm always looking like, are we near the motor? Sometimes I'll turn it off. Sometimes I'll flip it up and underneath. Is always, always watching.
The old garden hose, as we called it, that we used to have was so bad that we couldn't even use the electric motor. You didn't dare put the electric motor down when you deployed this thing because you never knew. It was very buoyant. The hose, as you can imagine, was very buoyant.
Yeah.
So
we're calling it a hose now.
Well, it's over here coiled up. Awesome. You think you're over there, and next thing you know, you're caught up in all kinds of stuff. So anyways, enough about
having that motor though too lets us follow the school of fish. Right. So often too, when we're down and fish are on the move, we're able to go with them. We only have so much tether. We have 300 meters of tether, which is quite a bit, but fish are on the move. We're going to go with them. So that's the trolling motors are really important part of what we're able to do.
Yeah. Curious, do you use forward facing sonar at all in your filming? Like, you want to see where the camera is in relation to the fish, for example, from above, so that you can get sort of a bird's eye view of where you need to be. Is that?
That's something we've thought about doing, but right now we just use, your regular sonar and side scan when we're looking for structure and things like that. But we definitely want to add to it.
We can hook you up.
Okay.
Because I think that would be vital. It would save you a lot of time for sure in where and how to deploy it, because you can literally go out Lake Ontario in 300 feet or more and turn this technology on, and you know exactly where you need to be, and you can watch yourself going to where you need to be, and you can position yourself where you think the best shot would be. I mean, it's just all kinds of things coming to mind. So.
That's why we have to collab. We have to be in the boat with you. We'll run the sonar, you run the cameras. We got it. We're dialed in. Somebody else got to fish because we'll be so busy. But,
all right. So you have this incredible story. You mentioned it, and it would be unfair for us not to spend a bit of time on this. The Quagga mussel invasion. You guys are the first, as far as I know, to document it to the point where laymen like us can look at it and say, wow, I had no idea that this was this big of a problem. Explain to you what you discovered. This is not the zebra mussel, by the way, folks, that we've talked about, ad nauseum. This is another type of mussel that is far more devastating to the ecosystem than the zebra mussel ever was. So take over, would you?
So it's actually a cousin of the zebra mussel. So the Quagga mussel, they're both from the same part of the world, the Black Sea area. And the Quagga is actually a little bit bigger than the zebra and more hardy. But the crazy difference about the Quagga versus the zebra, Quaggas don't need to stick to things. So that means that they can populate the whole, soft sediment of the Great Lakes. So now when you go, if we got in a boat right now, anywhere on the Great Lakes and went out, to 100 feet and we dropped a robot down, I can pretty much guarantee you we'd see a carpet of these mussels. Wow. Yeah.
That was the freaky part when we watched the documentary, is that you see all the zebras are only clung onto rocks, hard surfaces, pipes, or whatever like that. And the Quaggas, they just go on, there's sand, there's weeds, it doesn't matter what it is, they just drop down there and they make that, like you said, a carpet, some of your shots, you can't see anything but Quaggas pretty much, a little bit of sand here and there.
They can be up to 40,000 per square meter, and each one filters between 1 and 7 liters of water per day, which means that all of the water in lakes Michigan and Huron, which together form the largest freshwater lake on planet Earth, can be filtered by a mussel between either 1 or 2 weeks, depending on what's going on down there. And so that's sort of mind-boggling. And you're probably wondering, why is that a problem? Right. Well, it's a problem because what they're doing is they're taking the algae that used to be up in the water column to feed things like zooplankton, which feed the slightly bigger fish that feed the much bigger fish that we like. And it's pulled all that energy down into the lake bottom. So it's not available for fish to eat anymore. So the net effect is just less fish, more mussels. There's more biomass in mussels, far more than there are in fish in the Great Lakes.
Zach, you said it pulled it down. Explain what you're talking about. What do you mean it pulled it down?
They filter the water, right? So they have little stipends and they just eat the algae. They're eating it and putting it.
They literally are sucking down the surface. Let's say that 20-foot, 25-foot band of micro, organisms. They're literally sucking it down.
Well, the water would flow sort of naturally around, right? They are able to suck, and they do change how water moves and crazy stuff like that. But most of it is when the water naturally moves by, and as it goes by, they'll take out the algae. But how. And we're not scientists, right? So we're just sort of telling you what we've learned from other science folks. But how lakes work is there's only so much energy in a lake to make fish, right? And so where that energy is matters. Where those nutrients are matter. And so if they're all stuck in the lake bottom, they're not in the fish that were there, fueling the ecosystem or out there for us to catch.
And this is over and above the zebra mussel. That's the part that's blowing my mind, because for years, I mean, before we even heard of Quagga, it was all about mussels that were called zebra mussels.
That's all we heard of.
And that's what they were doing, is filtering out all of the nutrition out of the water that normally would be the food source for everything that lives in the lakes. Yeah. And so the zebra mussels were filtering it all, and the water was getting clear, and there was plant growth in areas that didn't have plant growth because of the sun. But it was all zebra mussels. What you guys are telling us from your discovery is that zebra mussel is not even an issue anymore. It's Quagga.
No.
So you take them and zebra, put them together, and holy mackerel, do we stand a chance?
Here's another thing that they were talking about when they say they filter in all the water. Well, I learned this through their video, is that everything has to poop, right? So they poop out all the stuff is left over, and it creates another algae on the bottom. So it covers the bottom with all this nasty algae as well. So it's all a cycle of bad, really, is what it is, right? Like, it's insane.
Yeah, it's not great.
No.
But if you watch the show, we work with a bunch of folks who are trying to figure out, you know, can we do something about this?
Exactly.
And the other, maybe I'll just give it the little upside. There are some fish that, you know, now that the lakes have changed so much, there are some fish that are getting some benefits from this new world created by the mussels. For instance, lake trout is one of the fish we look at in the 3rd episode, if folks watch the show. But, you know, lake trout used to be consuming lots of alewife, right? Alewife have this little enzyme that's not great for lake trout and is bad for them making babies. So now that there's less alewife and they're eating more of native fish, lake trout are doing better. They're starting to bounce back now as a result of these changes. So, you know, in any invasive species invasion, you're going to have winners and losers. And some of those winners are lake trout. You know, things like whitefish are most important commercial species in the Great Lakes. They're not doing great.
Right. Salmon as well. Salmon, like they need alewife to, you know, the alewife was a huge part of their Chinook salmon of the diet in Great Lakes. So that's, you know, yeah, you're right. Some go up, some go down. Like, it's bizarre to know that the lake trout is going better because the alewife is a problem with them, but yet the other, it's pretty crazy. And Gobbies, there's another one there, and they do a lot of study or a lot of footage on Gobbies in there. There's some great footage of a smallmouth, 2 different smallmouth scenarios, but the one where he is guarding the nest with all those Gobbies around there, and that fish is so busy, and that's, you know, you're seeing like 10 seconds or you're seeing 10 seconds, 15 seconds. That's going on for the entire time those eggs and babies are around. So that's
the Gobbies are a complicated and fascinating part of this story. So while they do threaten our eggs of our native species, they're an egg predator. Without the Gobbies, and the Gobbies, you have to understand, are the same as the mussels. So they evolved in the same place in Eastern Europe.
That's right.
To eat these mussels. They came in with them. Like the mussels came and the Gobbies came, they coexist together. You would not have Gobbies if it weren't for the mussels, because they eat those little mussels. They're by far the biggest eater of mussels. And what they're doing is they are taking some of that energy, which I said was locked in the lake bottom in these mussels, and they're making it available in fish form so that things like smallmouth bass and lake trout have something to eat out there. Because if the Gobbies weren't there, the amount of other little fish that are out there that normally would have fed those species are such decreased that there would have been nothing for them to eat. So it's so complicated. But if you got rid of Gobbies right now, it would be very bad.
Disaster for sure, based on what you said.
In this documentary, by the way, they also have footage of Gobbies eating zebra mussels. That's how good this stuff is. Right. You have so many different cool shots in there. It's crazy.
Another interesting fish that has come up in this that we probably very seldom, see or really are not that interested in, and that is the whitefish.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
So this project really got going because of the decline, or one might even say collapse, of the Lake Whitefish, which is the most important commercial fish species in the upper Great Lakes. This was a very, very common fish species, very important to that ecosystem.
I mean, if you were buying fish and chips, 20 years ago, it would almost certainly be whitefish.
Whitefish.
And it's having big impact on the handful of commercial fishers left in the Great Lakes, and definitely on the indigenous communities as well. This is a very important fish for the indigenous fishers, the communities out there, and they're having a big impact where we live on the Saugeen Bruce Peninsula. So we wanted to show people and get people to care about this fish that most people might not think about or even really know exists. And so we were able to film get the first known shots of whitefish spawning ever, I guess. And so the show opens where we see whitefish coming in to their spawning shoals and beginning the spawning dance and then actually spawning. And so science folks were really excited when they saw that. And so scientific work is going on with that footage to understand how those fishes are using that habitat. But we follow the life cycle of the lake whitefish from the spawning to hatching as eggs to trying to find food out there, because the huge change the mussels have caused, they've made the food that these baby whitefish used to eat far less abundant. So the little baby whitefish used to come out of their egg and then just had a smorgasbord available of zooplankton swimming around in the water. But now there's almost nothing out there for them to eat. And so they're collapsing, and it's having a major impacts.
Wow, the scientific community must just love you guys because you're doing all their work for them. Think about it. They would spend years, deploying.
We do the fun stuff. They still have to analyze and write papers. We get to be out there on the water.
And it's interesting that the scientific community, in your documentaries, in all three of them, you show so many different areas, from Ontario to Wisconsin to Michigan. Everybody, all these biologists are all working at kind of the same plan. They're all doing different stuff, but they're all working at the same plan. So it's crazy how much work is going on behind the scenes that nobody knows about. It's insane how much, and the indigenous communities too. So it's
Yvonne?
Yeah, there's a lot of folks out there who are really keen on trying to figure out a solution to make sure that the fish that belong in the Great Lakes are still here in the future, and that we can keep fishing them in the future for generations to come.
And they're passionate about it too. They're very there's a couple of compelling shots in there. You can even see by the biologists. They almost think they're crying because of what's happened here. It's you guys captured a lot of good stuff there.
So you didn't start out, looking for solutions to the whitefish collapse, or how are the lake trout going to react to the zebra mussel? You didn't start that way. Obviously, this thing was more, as you said, it was a means to exploit your artistic inner selves. But now it's turned into something different. Are you contemplating it? Maybe swinging a little bit more towards the scientific part, because now you're finding that there's a great need for that, and people must be reaching out to you saying, hey, listen, I need to find out how the common carp is doing in Lake Erie. Are you thinking of maybe going more in that direction?
Yeah, a lot of the work we're doing now, since we started, reaching out to these folks for All Too Clear, is, lining up, let's go check out what the bloater are doing in the middle of Lake Michigan.
Exactly.
And it's because a lot of fish science, they use nets to catch fish, but they're not seeing fish alive doing, living their lives. So now we have this cool tech where we're able to see fish living their lives, feeding, spawning, cruising, how they hang out in, multi-species schools, which is something we didn't even realize before we got to be down there.
And I would say that looking into the future, at least half our work now is working with scientists to try to answer different questions using this technology in the Great Lakes and beyond.
Although I will say that some of the most enthusiastic folks about the work we're doing, when we post a fish video on social media, we get a lot of anglers who are pretty chuffed about, getting to see their smallmouth, getting to see the walleye doing their thing underwater.
It changes everything for anglers. I mean, completely changes everything, which is fantastic. I mean, some people might be disappointed at what reality is compared to fantasy, but nonetheless, it's always interesting. Listen, tell folks how they can. We're talking about this candy that we have, and we're not sharing it with the audience. How can they see this, and where can they get it, and how's this work?
Yeah, so our Canadian broadcast partner is TVO, TV Ontario. And so starting October 26th, it's going to be broadcast at 7 p.m. But anyone in Canada, starting October 25th, can watch it for free anywhere in Canada through TVO's YouTube channel and through TVO's other apps. So you just type in All Too Clear TVO and you'll get all the ways to watch.
All Too Clear.
For free.
For free.
For free.
People.
For free, yeah. So anybody in Canada, it's going to drop all at once on the evening of October 25th. You can binge away on the fish porn.
I hope we didn't overstep our bounds by letting folks know that we got a sneak preview. So hopefully that doesn't.
You got,
yeah. And just All Too Clear to TOO. That's how to find us.
All Too Clear, yeah.
All too clear.
It's all too clear.
Well, it's all too clear to us that, or it should be to the audience, that we are green with envy. You're in a field that we've always been enamored to. In fact, now I have a new thing. When I die, I want to be you guys. Okay, I want to come back as you guys, because you guys are living the life. Absolutely outstanding.
We need a ship captain, someone to join us to drive the boat. So
there you go. I'm a great ship captain.
Wow.
And he runs the electronics.
He's a pirate. He's kind of a pirate. He's a scurvy dog. If you don't do your job, he knocks you off the plank and into the lake. So you got to watch him sometimes. And by the way, these guys, to the audience, these guys are the best in the business. I mean, they truly are as good as whatever I've seen. National Geo stuff, all that stuff I've seen, they are as good or better than anybody out there. So there you go.
Better. Guys, thank you very much. All the best to you. Congratulations. You're going to be a huge hit come October 27th. I'm feeling all kinds of great things for you, and I'm just delighted that we met and connected a while ago, and we will keep that channel open. We may I just want to tease the audience a little bit. We may be featuring some of your stuff on the 2025 Fishing Canada series that starts January 5th on Global Television Network.
It's all too clear. I can see it right now.
It's all too clear.
Nice. Thank you so much for having us again. We loved it. We loved coming back.
Guys.
Absolute pleasure. Zach, Yvonne, thank you. Take care.
Wow, great people, and they do a great job. I mean, I was serious there. That is world class for people that have not seen it yet, and that have seen their past work yet. It is so professionally done. The documentary, the way their style that they're doing it, you just stay there for that whole. It's like an hour. Each one's an hour, and you just stick right to it. And wow!
I remember in the mid '80s we had some incredible film. That was given to us by DFO that they had documented. I don't even know how they got it, but it was like cinematography at the time at its best, and it was film. And I remember that we were doing a great lake trout episode, and we got to use some of this footage. I don't even know whether you recall or not, but they had these at the time, this earth-shattering visuals of a lake trout in spawn mode, and it came near the camera, and the colors on it were just breathtaking, and the whole scene lasted all of 6 or 7 seconds.
Right.
But I remember I was so drawn to that, and I said, man, oh man, we've got to get more. And never since then have I seen what I was fortunate enough to witness yesterday.
Yeah. Now you're seeing it in 4K.
Now I see it in it is. When we say breathtaking, we are understating what you're going to experience on October 26th. It's like
looking through your scuba mask. You're right there looking through it. You're just saying, "Oh my God, this is
Anyways,
it's freaky."
I'm so excited.
So good. One thing I learned. I don't know if you picked this up on there to the audience. A couple things. I mean, there's a lot of things out there. One thing I learned in that thing is that fish like whitefish can actually get a sunburn. with the light penetration going down so
Who
far.
knew?
I had no idea. A sunburn on white, like it's dangerous, this penetration that the worse it's getting. And another one is that they said on Lake Ontario, which we fish a lot, you can get up to 20 meters of visibility from above.
Yeah,
you can drop down 20 meters.
We're thinking 10, 12 feet.
20 feet to sometimes on the St. Francis and stuff like that. 20 meters, 60 feet plus down there, visibility. Insane.
Think about that.
Yeah.
That as an angler, you have to take that kind of information and extrapolate what's good for you and add it to your workbox of tools and information when you're out fishing.
Maybe that 8-pound test fluorocarbon Yozuri is a little too heavy nowadays, and maybe you got to go down to a 6 or something like that.
So think about that.
Yeah.
Anyways, as you could tell, we are just so thrilled at this product, and we are so honored that they gave us the opportunity to share it with you. And you have to watch it when it becomes available. It will blow your mind. And let us know. Let us know after that. What you thought of it. That are it, Mr. Bowman. I need to calm down now after all that.
Yes, you were very excited.
I know.
You get to pilot a ship, and I get to run the electronics and stuff like that. We'd have fun. Oh my God, we'd have a blast doing that. It'd be the first time you and I are in the water and we didn't want to cast a line out because we'd be so, that's cool, that guy,
and we'd have
all of a sudden we didn't fish.
We'd have the monitors in front of us showing the live camera, showing the Garmin view. And, oh my God, I can see it now, Peter. Our new future. We may be able to get another 40 or 50 years out of that.
On
that note, I'll have to sign off. By the way, it was a wonderful having Vova jump in with a question. We'd like to see more of that.
That shot that they did when they threw the net out, did you notice that one? When they threw the net out and it followed the net? How did they do that? Was that a GoPro or what was that? Probably a GoPro. It was the coolest shot. Like everything they did in this thing was nuts. So
incredible. They are to underwater documentary style creativity and talent and art that the Fishing Canada show is to angling.
Hey! Hell yeah!
I thought you'd like that. Why not? That's it for us, folks. Don't forget fishingcanada.com, the gateway, the portal to your next fishing adventure. Everything you could possibly want, including some great underwater footage, maybe very soon.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
All available there. On behalf of the entire cast, Vova, who you heard, I think, maybe for the first time on this show.
No, Vova was on in our. He did the East Coast.
From the field, or on the road.
That was Steve's show, wasn't it?
Steve. Oh. No, it was up in Obabaca. Was it Steve's show?
Yeah, it was Steve.
Yeah, he did a podcast with Steve. He wouldn't do one with us, but he would go.
He's never done anything with us ever.
No,
not words, not a word spoken.
I don't think so. I think this was a first.
Never talk about me farting on the boat or anything like that?
No.
Ever? Never?
No, unfortunately not. So, time to go. Thank you, Boba, Nick, Dean.
Come on now.
He's Pete. I'm Ange. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time. Take care. This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio has been brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Center, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species, and Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures.